Hi there. For my treasure hunt for week 8, I am going to show you my favorite Web 2.0 resource that I use in my classroom. I have included it previously in some of my favorite apps because it's something you can use on a desktop, on a laptop, and also there's an app for it. So I pretty much use it all over my classroom, and that program is called IXL. So IXL is pretty fantastic, and it started as just a math application or a math web application, and it's broadened its horizon in the last year or so to points of language arts, where you can see it goes all the way up through 12th grade. And now it's even adding science, which is pretty fantastic, and also social studies. So it's wonderful. I use it regularly, sometimes daily, if not at least a couple times a week in my classroom. So you can have, so I bought the version. So there's always a free version for teachers that, or anyone who can't afford to pay for it, that you can do a lot of 30-day trials. I recommend doing at least one before you actually sign up and buy it. It works really well for me because I am a resource teacher in an elementary school. So I see students kindergarten through 5th grade. And also it helps just building skills, and you can go all the way up to pre-calculus. So obviously none of my 5th graders are doing that. However, at one point in my career, I did have someone doing pre-calculus that was a 3rd grader. So the great part about it is you have a username and it's available on any device. And I'm logged in as Miss Check, and so what I can do is, usually it gives me, or maybe I need to log in. I have a roster for my students, and so that will come up, and that tells me all of my students, and again, this is confidential because it's my students, and I make it pretty easy. I only have maybe one email for one of my students' parents, as you can see, but usually I just have the progress emailed to me, and I can obviously come in at any time and look at the roster. And I'm allowed to have I pay for one class subscription, and I'm allowed to have 30 students. And as my students come and go, I change that and I delete or add them. And so at any time, if I want to, I can go and look at any of their progress. So we'll look at the top and we'll look at this student, and it will tell me how many hours he spent working on it, how many skills he's made progress in, how many questions he's answered right here, and then his level of proficiency out of a 100-point scale over here, and then also the number of months that he's practiced. So this student was identified as having special education needs in February. That's when we held his initial IEP. So between March and April, he's been practicing more. And so if you can go down further and look at the exact dates that he's practiced, what standard he used, which is another nice thing about IXL is that it's content aligned and standards based, which being a special education teacher and covering 6 different grade levels is really helpful for me. It saves me a lot of time in data management, and I just find it very helpful. And we'll probably use the language arts version of it to come, but for right now it's a little bit higher than some of my students, so we just started with the math version. But so I can kind of peruse and see what he's been doing and how well he's been doing, and just kind of look at overall. He practiced 2-dimensional shapes for 11 minutes. He answered 45 questions. He missed 21, and then the SMART score progress. So it's very helpful to me to have this. And I mean, for any teacher to show what your student's been doing, is he good at reading charts? And the nice thing about this is it doesn't, so in some math applications and some other applications that I've used, it starts them at it kind of like a quiz. So they have to do like a diagnostic, and it puts them at a grade level. The nice part for this is that there isn't any grade level. So if I have this particular student go on, I could tell him to go to kindergarten, 1st grade, 12th grade, whatever. And it really is helpful because whether he's higher in one area or lower in another, or if I need him to read it and he's a 3rd grader, it will read the questions up, I think, until 1st or 2nd grade. But after that, they won't be able to. So another really cool part of IXL is that there's a dashboard. So it sends me regular emails letting me know. So I give my students the password also to use at home. And depending on how many hours they practice, I will reward them at school. And then also for the summer so they don't get behind in skills. So this is my analytics. And I absolutely love having data. And for my job, I have to have it to support my students' IEP goals. So it gives me this year, my students have collectively answered 22,555 questions. They've spent 124 hours and 30 minutes, and they've made progress in this many skills. So this is stuff that I like to include around the classroom, and IXL will generate emails to me when any of my students have made progress or are struggling with something. And, there's just so much data that I can look at. So another great thing is I can go, trouble spots. If there's a student that I know is struggling, or I can go and look at their struggles and say, okay, so this student is really having a hard time in, understanding the months of the year. So I can go down and look at, okay, well, she's got 25, she missed 46 questions, and I can say, okay, this is something we're going to need to address more. So it already generates where the areas of weakness are, or where he or she is struggling. And from that, I can make, lessons for her, small group lessons or direct lessons for the class, depending on what their areas of weakness are. And so this is another thing. It's called the Student Quick View, and I absolutely love this. This chart right here is so helpful to me when I go to make IEP goals. So I pull up just a specific student, and I say, okay, one of their goals was in multiplication skills. So I want them to be at this grade level. This is their level of proficiency right now. This tells me that, where I'm writing a goal that the student will be able to know their multiplication facts with 80% accuracy. And then I come and look over here and I'm said, oh, wow, they're only at 10%. We really need to work on that. We only have 4 months to the annual, and before they had made progress, partial progress, substantial progress. So again, this is just a huge lifesaver for me when it comes to data collection. And then in any way you like to receive information as an educator, IXL gives you that. If you would like it in a graph form, if you'd like it just in basic facts, if you want a chart, like you look at this, you can kind of see where everyone's at. So this student, this is just writing numbers in words. You can click, just kind of hover over it and it will tell you how many questions, how long they did. Like this student, they have 43 questions, but they're at 100% accuracy. So there's so many different ways that it can help you to understand your students, where they're at. And especially, even a classroom teacher. I know the classroom rate isn't that expensive. So I encourage other people to get it. At my school, we use Front Row as well because it's a free application. And it does start with a diagnostic. But IXL is really my preferred Web 2.0, just because there's so much information I can gather from it. And I can make different, I could just make different assessments. I can make different pre-assessments, and I can have kids reinforce the goal. So in Front Row, if a kid masters a goal, they don't give them an opportunity to go back and practice it as much. With IXL, you're able to go back and have the student, do it over and over and over again, even if they achieve it. So, and let's see, if I log out as me and log in as a student. So let's look at, so all of my students, it's their first, last name and 880, and then their password is always 12345. And I cannot even tell you how often they forget. So just looking, the student will get this. And again, if they're whatever grade level they left at, and then they can, have a little profile up here. A lot of the kiddos like that. So let's see. This student, so when there's a little pineapple next to it, it means that she has received 100% in this skill. So she's already got a gold medal, and the kids love, as you get more and more right, it gives you a little ribbon. And so the kids love to tell me when they've got a little ribbon, Miss Chuck, I got a little ribbon. Oh, and so it's almost instant reinforcement for them, instant gratification that they're doing well. And the nice thing for me is I can see in the corner. So as I'm circulating throughout my classroom, I can see up here how long they've been working on something, how many questions they've answered, and what is their SMART score. So how many have they got? You know, if they've done 100 questions and they're below 50%, this is really a skill that they're struggling with. And then they'll get prizes as they go along, and they go to this master board and they click on them. And when you've earned a medal, it means that you've mastered a skill, which is great. But again, you can still go back to that skill. And this little girl particularly is in 4th grade, but we have her, she's about 2 grade levels below. So even there might be some stuff that I want her to work on in kindergarten level, and that's available for her. So again, that, you know, my grade levels vary for students. You know, I have a lot of 4th graders at 1st grade level. I have a kindergartner at preschool level. So I have a 5th grader at 2nd grade level. So having the opportunity to have every content standard here as it pertains to math is wonderful. So if you look at it, all of them are aligned. You could see all the standards, and I mean, literally anything in math, which is helpful because a lot of my students are English language learners, and math is an area of strength for them. So even if we're not building to have an area of weakness, it's just to improve their math skills. You know, one of the things I do in my resource room is we really try to focus and build their strengths. And it's helpful to have that with math. And this is something that the kids enjoy doing. And if anyone has a tablet at home or they have a computer, anyone with internet access can access this website. So it is beneficial to many of my kids. And like I said, I use this at least every other day in the classroom. I do like IXL a little bit, but I'm sorry, IXL is my go-to. Front Row is also an application that we use. But again, just with the way that it's built over the last year, this is something that I will continue to use. So you have to pay for each one separately though. Like you have a math membership, you have a language arts membership. And I think they have like a bundle deal now, only because like I said, when it first started, it was just math, and now it's moved on to be language arts, science, and social studies. So, it's very worth, this has absolutely saved my life. When I have over 28 kids on my caseload, you know, it's very easy to track their data, track their progress. And it's just been really a lifesaver. And the nice thing is this year, since I used it so much last year, I could plan ahead because you pay each year for it. And I was able to use a little bit of the money of my budget, which tells you it's not that expensive because school budgets are almost completely a thing of the past. But I was able to get I was able to use my classroom budget to pay for this membership this year. So I definitely hope that you check out IXL. It's an absolutely valuable resource in my classroom. I use it as often as possible. The kids enjoy it. It's instant gratification, content aligned, and just a wonderful app. So thank you for listening.